Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will turn the pages of The Blue Castle by L.M. Montgomery. The Blue Castle by Lucy Maud Montgomery is a charming novel set in the early 20th century. It tells the story of Valancy Stirling, a 29-year-old woman living in a small town in Canada, trapped by her oppressive family and societal expectations. The story explores themes of freedom, self-discovery, and the pursuit of happiness. Plot summary: Valancy Stirling awoke to a life that seemed as bleak and colorless as the dreary, rain-soaked streets outside her window. At 29, she was the invisible woman of Deerwood, unnoticed by the world and overshadowed by her domineering mother and judgmental extended family. Trapped in a monotonous existence, Valancy's days were filled with the ceaseless demands of an overbearing household that deemed her a failure for being unmarried and unremarkable in every way. The only solace she found was in her fantasies of a blue castle, a dreamlike refuge where she imagined herself as a free, cherished, and beautiful woman. Her life took an unexpected turn when, plagued by mysterious chest pains, Valancy decided to seek the advice of Dr. Trent, a gruff but skilled physician. Unbeknownst to her family, who would never approve of consulting a doctor without the clan's collective decision, she slipped away to his office. Days later, a letter arrived from Dr. Trent, containing a diagnosis that shattered the world as she knew it. Valancy had a terminal heart condition, angina pectoris, complicated with aneurysm. She had, at most, a year to live. The news, as stark and unforgiving as the sterile medical terms in which it was delivered, stunned her into a numb acceptance of what little time remained. But beneath the numbness, a spark of defiance flickered. For the first time in her life, Valancy tasted freedom in the face of death. What did it matter now if she displeased her mother or defied the narrow conventions of Deerwood society? She was going to die, and in dying, she had nothing left to lose. This realization emboldened her to break the chains that had held her captive for so long. Valancy, the meek, obedient daughter, decided to live her remaining days on her own terms. Her first act of rebellion was to leave her mother's house and move in with Sissy Gay, a young woman who had been ostracized by the community for bearing an illegitimate child. Sissy, sickly and frail, was in dire need of companionship and care, something Valancy could provide. This decision was scandalous enough to send shockwaves through her family and the entire town. But Valancy found a strange exhilaration in the act of defiance. For once, she was the master of her own destiny, and the freedom was intoxicating. In her new life with Sissy, Valancy discovered a joy she had never known. The simple pleasures of tending to the needs of a friend, of walking through the woods without the weight of her family's expectations pressing down on her shoulders, filled her days with a lightness that seemed almost magical. It was in this period of newfound liberty that she encountered Barney Snaith. Rumors surrounded Barney like a dark cloud. He was a man of mystery, a supposed criminal or fugitive. Yet to Valancy, he was an enigma wrapped in a warm smile and a twinkling eye. He was unlike anyone she had ever met, living alone in a secluded cabin on an island in the Muskoka region, free from the chains of societal judgment. Drawn to his unorthodox lifestyle and carefree spirit, Valancy found herself falling in love with him. In a bold move that shocked even herself, she confessed her feelings to Barney and proposed a marriage of convenience. To her surprise, Barney agreed, and they embarked on a journey that transformed Valancy's world into the blue castle of her dreams. Their life together was one of simplicity and unexpected bliss. They lived in his cabin, surrounded by the wild beauty of nature, far from the prying eyes and wagging tongues of Deerwood. For the first time, Valancy experienced the warmth of love and companionship, the joy of living without fear or shame. However, the shadow of her impending death loomed over her happiness. Valancy cherished every moment with Barney, all the while bracing herself for the inevitable end. But as days turned into weeks and weeks into months, she realized something strange. She felt healthier and more alive than she ever had. Doubts began to gnaw at her. Could Dr. Trent have been wrong? Was there a possibility that her death sentence had been a terrible mistake? Driven by a desperate need to know the truth, Valancy consulted another doctor. This time, the diagnosis was not fatal but far more mundane. There was no life-threatening heart condition. She was not dying. The realization that she had been given a new lease on life, instead of filling her with unbridled joy, brought a complex mix of emotions. The freedom she had embraced was born from the belief that she had nothing left to lose. Now that she had the prospect of a full life ahead of her, she feared losing the one thing she had gained, the unconditional love of Barney Snaith. Believing that Barney had only married her out of pity, Valancy made the painful decision to leave him, to spare him from a life shackled to a woman who had misled him. But before she could carry out her plan, Barney confessed his love for her. He revealed that he had always loved her, that he had wanted to marry her not out of pity, but because she had become the light in his life. Relieved and overjoyed, Valancy realized that the love they shared was real and enduring, not a fleeting mercy for a dying woman. With the truth out in the open and their love reaffirmed, Valancy and Barney embraced the future with open hearts. The blue castle of her dreams was no longer just a figment of her imagination, but a living reality. Together, they faced the world, not as two souls bound by necessity or pity, but as partners who had chosen each other for who they truly were. For Valancy Stirling, life had finally begun. Looking for more great reads? Be sure to check out other books by L.M. Montgomery. Find them in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in L.M. Montgomery's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.